So hello, my name is Tamás Dombos and I work here for the Hungarian LGBT Alliance, which is an umbrella organization in Hungary, which brings together 8 different organizations.
Okay. Can you explain us the LGBT situation in Hungary?
It's a very long question, very complicated, but I think as opposed to Italy, in Hungary we have quite progressive legislation. So we have registered partnership, we have protection against discrimination and hate crimes. So legally speaking, the situation is quite good in Hungary, especially compared to the countries around us. But the social situation is not very good. So social acceptance is still very low. Over 50% of people think that homosexuality is a sickness. And most people decide to stay in the closet. So I think according to the latest statistics, 16% of people said that they have someone who they know personally who is gay or lesbian, which is very low. So this means that most people stay in the closet, so there's not much visibility in society, and that creates all kinds of problems.
Okay, what about the Pride? You have some problems, or it's good?
Yeah, actually it's the 20th anniversary of the Pride in Budapest, so we were the first in the Central Eastern European region to have a Pride, so it's been going on for 20 years now. And for the first 15 years it was more or less safe, so there were no attacks, but since 2007 there were attacks against the Pride March, so there is a quite big police protection which is more or less working, so people participating in the Pride March are secure, but when you're going to the Pride or leaving the Pride, there are always assaults every year, and we have tried to help those people that become victim of violence. So generally speaking, I think it's a quite nice Pride. It's about 10,000 people, so quite big, with trucks and music, but still there are problems around it.
We work also with LGBT asylum seeker. Do you have something like this in your country?
There is an organization which is providing support for asylum seekers called the Hungarian Helsinki Committee, and they are very LGBT friendly. So we work with them on some cases and do support for their work, but we're not directly involved with LGBT asylum seekers. But I mean, we follow what's going on and we do a little bit of lobbying, and when needed we provide support, but they're the ones that do this work mostly.
Okay, the last 2 questions.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, with the problem that you had, how the community reacts? What's the what are the reactions of the community in front of this?
Yeah, I think the reactions are quite diverse. I mean, some people decide to leave the country. I mean, more and more people from Hungary, generally speaking, leave the country for other European countries. And that's quite big. This movement is quite big in the LGBT community as well. So many of my friends actually left the country in the last few years, partly as a result of all this homophobia going on and partly for economic reasons. That's one reaction. The second reaction, for many years we saw a drop in the number of participants for the Pride. So it was around 2,000-3,000 people before the attacks, and then it dropped to 500, 700. But then in the last 2 or 3 years it's been picking up again. So actually the largest Prides we had in the last 2 years, with 10,000 people participating. So it's kind of has this negative influence on the community of leaving and being quite depressed, but also some people decide to actually become more active and be involved in organizations and doing volunteer works and going to the Pride, which is important.
So do you have also rainbow families or?
Yes, it's been picking up in Hungary as well. It's still mostly about lesbian couples, so not so much gay couples, but some of them also raise families and raise children. There is an organization specifically focusing for them called the Rainbow Families Foundation. So they do these workshops and organize programs for the families.
Okay.
Legally speaking, that's where we have the most problems. So registered partnership doesn't offer any parenting rights, so no access to assisted reproduction, no adoption, etc. So parenting is still kind of operating in a legal vacuum.
Okay. The last question is about the relation with the religious communities. You have problem or?
In Hungary, I mean, the Hungarian society is quite religious if you look at whether they believe in God and whether they consider themselves religious. But the large majority of them says, I'm religious in my own ways, which basically means that they're not very much into organized religion. So the church attendance rate is among the lowest in Europe. So the church doesn't have such a direct influence on what people think. There are quite good relations now with the current conservative government, so they can have their way through, but not through the people, but rather through their political connections.
But this government is very strong, I think. No, so
they have over 2/3 majority in parliament, or they had. Now they don't. But that means that they could change the constitution. So now we have a constitution which says marriage is a union between a woman and a man. So it's constitutionally not easy to introduce same-sex marriage in Hungary in the coming years. And this is all because of this conservative government that we have, which is composed of two parties, like a large right-wing party and the Christian Democrats, a very small party, but they are very active in homophobia, this small party. So actually they can get their way through with the larger conservative party as well.
Thank you, Tamas.
You're welcome.